Hey, beautiful beings. So this is the third time that I've tried to film this video. The first time I had my neighbours banging on the door. Second time the guinea pigs were squeaking. And then the third time I burst out crying halfway through telling the story. So let's see if I can get through this one with no tears and no drama. So you can go and check out my other video that I made about how to make the mushroom tea. So I'm fairly new to this journey, and as often I do, I tend to document my experiences and share my journey so that it may be helpful for others. So I made my tea for myself last night whilst listening to some Native American music, and setting the intention that I was going to have a good experience, and that whatever would come through was what I needed to know and to learn about most at that time. So I started drinking the tea about 8:30. By about 5 to 9, I was like, fucking hell, why did I decide to do this by myself? I'm really scared. Oh my God, what's going to happen? But lots of swearing, so I do apologise, but not. So I was sat on my settee, had my blanket over me, listening to some really nice meditative music, and I just thought, you know what, I just need to close my eyes and surrender. I did feel a little bit nauseous. I had put some ginger in my tea. I hadn't really had anything to eat all day. But I was just taking like lots of deep breaths when I was feeling a bit nauseous, and just breathing through it. So some of the stuff that came up, like, I'm quite happy to share with you. So the first thing that came up for me was that I could see myself. It was like a bird's eye view where I was looking down on my body, and it's like I was in this fetal position in this sort of like stone coffin. And I was by myself, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I died by myself. And there was no friends, no relatives, no family. There's like no funeral, anything like that. It was just me, literally left to sort of die in this space. And so I asked in my mind, I'm like, when was this? And I just got the year 1142. And for me, that feels as if, like, you know, many of us have this like massive fears around abandonment and about rejection. And it feels as if that was where that stemmed from for me initially. Like that first point where I was like, oh my God, there was no one with me. And then I was told, I don't even know who it was by, but then I was told, you know, Lindsay, that when you died that you're not alone. So you weren't actually abandoned, but because there was no one physically present with you, that was what you felt. And then we sort of moved forward, and I was having a conversation with my grandma, who's still with us. She's still here on the earth. And her mum had passed away when she was, I think, 21, and it felt as if that abandonment, it's sort of, even though it's gone through me through past lifetimes, then it was also sort of there, and then passed through to my mum, and then passed through to me as well. So it's like I was having a conversation with my grandma, and I was doing healing work on her, and I was telling her it was all right and everything like that. So it felt as if we were doing that sort of work as well. And it's interesting because one of my cards that I got for this week was ancestors as well. So there was definitely sort of like work to be done on my ancestral lines. And then I saw the goddess Kali, I think that's how you pronounce it, Kali, who is the goddess of rebirth and transformation. And I'm going to try not to cry at this point again. She basically was showing me that the work that I've done over the last few years, she's like, it's all a show, Lindsay. It's like, it's all this illusion. You know, it doesn't matter about the number of likes or followers or anything else. She was like, it's to get you sort of like engaged on the screen, and it's to draw you into the laptop, and it's about not necessarily sort of like going out and just being you and etc. And she was saying, like, if people want to find you, they'll find you, you know, regardless of whether you're on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or anywhere else. So so there was a lot around sort of like the work that I do, and where my focus lies. So it's funny because I've been working with a couple of people to try and get like my website done and this, that and the other, and it just wasn't, I didn't feel it in my heart. So this morning I just cancelled it, and I just went, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore, and I've just sort of bailed. I've applied to dissolve my company, which I've had for 4 years, because that doesn't feel aligned anymore. I don't want to have a company that's in the system. You know, I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to go self-employed. Everything's going to go through one bank account. I don't want to be part of of that. So I've applied to dissolve my company, called off my new website, called off my new courses. I've transferred everything myself and just done it today. And then what was the other thing that came through as well? I think they were the main things. There was a lot, like I said, about illusion. There was lots of colours. There was lots of various sort of like imagery that I saw. Like I kept laughing randomly at different points as well. And then I remember like I really needed the toilet, but I was like, I didn't want to try and climb upstairs. And I did feel like a bit sort of like out of it, just trying to get up to the bathroom a little bit. So yeah, that was a bit bizarre. But I sat there for probably 2.5 hours before I was like, right, I'm coming round now. And I was trying to write in my journal because I really wanted to write everything that I'd experienced, but I just couldn't because everything felt really floppy. So, you know, it was definitely like an interesting experience, and I'm pleased I did it because, like, in my mind, you know, we wanted to do this, or we've planned to do this plant ceremony at the end of the month. And I think I could just completely underestimated what it was actually going to be like. So for me, I'm like, now I recognise how it felt, and for me it was a good experience. Then I want to be able to set those sort of like that same space for others, and for others to have like a good experience. And if they're not having a good experience, then to make sure that there's someone there as well to support them. So whether that's myself or David. So yeah, that was my sort of experience with them. It was definitely interesting. I would definitely do it again. I just think the insights were just massive. And that was the other thing. So they showed me like about where I was going to be living and what I was going to be doing and the work and conversations that I was going to be having with people in order to like to not achieve, but to get to sort of like where my vision, you know, going off grid. So I've spent today sort of like just by myself, you know, sort of like processing, doing a meditation, like I said, crying a bit earlier. That shocked me a bit because I didn't expect for like tears to be coming out afterwards. But I suppose when it's the first time, like the second time you've spoken about it, it's like, oh my God, it's a massive change and a massive shift, you know, to not be doing what you've been doing for the last few years. And it was funny as well, actually, because I did a reading this morning for a lady and it just felt so flat, and I was like, I don't actually want to do these anymore. You know, at one point I loved it because I was like, this is awesome, but it just felt so out of alignment that I'm like, I'd rather teach. I prefer teaching, and I want to hold spaces, and I know that I'm on a different trajectory, it's a big word for me, shall we say, to where I was previously. So my feeling is that, and again, you know, I've only done this once and I can only speak from my experience, but my feeling is that if it's something that you want to do, if you're like, I'm not in a space of anxiety or worry or stress or anything like that. I'm in a good space, and that's probably why, even though like I freaked out a little bit at first, I was actually okay. But my feeling would be, if I was in a state of anxiety already, it might, and it might not, but I just feel like it might bring up these anxieties, or like really the root cause of them and where they're coming from. So, you know, it's completely up to you how you feel. If you're going to do them, I would recommend doing them with someone that you trust, who's nearby, who's not maybe tripping out at the same time, because that might be a bit, I'm not sure, misaligned. If one's like giggling their heads off and the other one's like sobbing, but that's just my opinion. So yeah, it was definitely an interesting experience, definitely one that I would like to repeat, but I feel for the minute that it's something like all the lessons and the insights I need to now process myself and integrate, and I suppose but make those changes that are necessary, and just be brave and just jump and just do it and get on with it, basically. So yeah, that was my experience. So like I said, I was probably sat for 2.5 hours. I did get really bad cramp in my leg at one point, which is still in today because I was just sat for so long by like doing nothing. And I remember trying to drink a glass of water as well, and just sort of like I couldn't really get my hands on the glass. It's quite interesting. But yeah, so if anyone else has any experiences that they would like to share, then do feel free to do so. For the minute, I'm just going to put this as private on YouTube, only because I've already shared my mushroom tea video, and I'd like to try and space my videos out a bit rather than overwhelming people. But yeah, interesting and exciting.